Hi, I'm Dean DeMarzo,
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
and you're listening to Relatively in Tune, where we talk to creative people and the people close to them. Today, our guest is rapper, musician, composer, performer Nory, and his guest. Why don't you two introduce yourselves?
What's up, guys? I'm Nory. Nice to meet you guys. Nice to be here. As you said, I'm an artist based in New York. I make hip hop and rock blending music and, sensibilities from all different genres. I'm a full-time rapper, producer, and pursuing my career at no end. And joining me today is my good friend Nir.
Thanks for having me. I'm Nory's guest for today. I'm Nir, a music producer, currently working on Nory's record for 6 months now in the making. So very excited about this one. And been here in New York in the Brooklyn scene for a year now.
Yeah.
Having a good time. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Where did you move from?
I'm from Tel Aviv originally, but I lived in Nashville for the last 3 years. So I've been doing music in Nashville for 3 years and then moved here and love it here. Love the scene, love everything about
That's
it.
awesome.
So
Yeah, we went to Nashville for a little while.
Yeah.
But it was I feel it was very, very concentrated. It almost New York is better because I think it's more
New York's very spread out.
diverse.
Nashville's like, you got Music Row, you got...
Oh, yeah.
That was our experience, at
Yeah.
least. It's like everything's happening in one place, which was really cool.
But we were there, almost 15 years ago, so it's
Yes, it was a while.
bit
It was a
different,
while
but-
ago. How did you two meet?
Everyone asks us, and I don't remember like the moment where we met, but I do know it was like Nir and I have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm very active in the scene here in the city. So I think when Nir moved here and he started going out, we just like started shaking hands naturally, and then over time we built a friendship and talked about working together. That's my
Yeah, no, that's what I remember too. Again, we have a lot of mutual friends, and we're both in Bushwick, and there's like not a lot of jam nights in Bushwick, particularly. But again, if you go out and you start meeting people, you're gonna hear Nory's name because he's putting himself out there. So very quickly, people start to introduce each other and like, hey, you guys should start cooking together.
Yeah.
Do something. So
I was going to say, Nory, to say like you're active in the scene is a massive understatement
Yeah.
from what I can see.
for
You
sure.
are playing, shows in the park. You've hung out with Mark Rebier like 3 times, hopping
Yeah.
on those sets. I just see all kinds of live footage from everywhere, working with everybody. It's so cool.
Yeah,
So
I'm trying to be everywhere all at once. That's why I moved to New York, because I'm from Miami, and
Oh, wow.
the scene out there is really sparse and sort of lacks like the infrastructure and the culture for people to like really pursue music. This is all I ever want to do. This is all I enjoy doing. Literally everything else I don't enjoy doing except music.
Same.
I feel that same.
Same.
So moving to New York, it's just like you can literally go down any street and there's something musical happening or like someone you could meet. And I've been chasing that since I moved here.
What made you decide New York out of everywhere that you could have moved?
I always felt my whole life that New York is an inevitable destination for artists. Even before I had started doing music, it just was like all artists have to live in New York. So that was always in the back of my mind. And then at the time I was dating a girl who was going to the New School, which is a University of Manhattan. So I just decided on a whim I'd apply to finish my degree there. And I somehow got accepted, even though I had like the worst grades I've ever had. And so I finished my degree, but I was not advised to go. Like everyone in my family was like, just get your degree and then you can consider moving there. But I didn't want to wait. I just wanted desperately to move here. And while I was visiting her during her studies, I had already started making friends out here. So I was like, I know in a year of Nory in New York, it's going to be a really like life-changing experience for me. And I just decided to bite the bullet and do it.
That's awesome.
Is that the New School where your like connection to a lot of the jazz influence in your
Absolutely.
music? Is that where that started?
Yeah, and it's actually where I met a lot of the mutual friends that Nir and I have, because the New School, especially the jazz program, has a sister school in Tel Aviv. So I became really close friends with a lot of Israeli musicians.
Awesome.
And at some point, like 80% of the band that I was forming was Israeli, because all of these amazing musicians are coming from Israel to study here. So the New School was like a huge opportunity for me to like find myself musically in the city, and it connected me with a community of people who were also interested in that, which is the main reason I went. And I'm still like paying off the school. I probably
Yeah.
will be.
I feel that.
As all of us.
Same.
Yeah.
But it was worth it. At least that's how I justify it to myself.
Did you study voice there? What was your instrument?
So I was doing, I had 3 years already in undergrad studying poli-sci, political
Oh.
science.
Cool.
So I was like, have to get that degree. I've already done 3 years, and I truly do enjoy like studying and learning about politics and history, which I think really like inform my music. So I applied for like the transfer student program, which means you could pretty much create your own major. And so I was doing classes in like the political liberal arts college and also at the jazz school, learning piano and being a rapper in jazz ensembles and stuff.
We had a much more rigid music program that was like, you do your classical studies, you take this jazz class, you study your instrument, and it's really cool to hear you had more flexibility with that.
Nir and I both have like a strange, like non-traditional approach to not only just making music, but music in general.
For sure.
Like, for me, I started music as a producer. I didn't know anything about theory or anything. I just started making songs on my laptop on GarageBand. And that was like the beginning of my journey.
That's the important part,
Yeah.
That's way better than the people who do all the theory and then never do anything with it, which happens so often.
And what about you, Nir? How did you start?
Yeah, I found myself too starting producing. It was clear for me that I'm gonna do music for the rest of my life when I was like, I don't know, since I can remember myself, honestly, and I've been part of bands or whatever. And yeah, I dropped out of high school when I was 15 and started working in a commercial recording studio and just like making coffee for like, 6 months or whatever, and just like see how sessions are actually going and kind of build myself like clients back home and did the whole thing. So start producing, basically just like diving in and start doing it and get your hands dirty, with not really trying to learn any kind of frame of how you should or what you can or can't do. Kind of learning by yourself, which is, it's a way. I definitely happy that this was my path, and I think Nory is having the same kind of like experience.
Yeah.
Is it both your full-time careers?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. That's very
in a good day, in a good month.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. It's just there's no consistency, but it's definitely what we're doing all the time.
Yeah. I mean, like I have a partial or part-time job, but it's at a music studio.
Nice.
So I try my best to surround myself with music, even if I have to like work at a desk or something.
Yeah.
What does a typical week look like for you in terms of shows and what you're working on with music and everything?
Honestly, my week by weeks are so different, but one thing that is sort of the common thread is that I'm extremely busy every single day doing something. So outside of like the part-time job that I have at Funkadelic Studios, I'm pretty much doing sessions with Nir, finishing the album that we've been working on. I am recording clients that I have. So I like produce, mix, master, and record for a couple artists out here in New York.
Nice. Oh, nice.
And I'm also hosting an event every Tuesday night. And that event is called Java Jam. And it's a jam session that Nir's been a part of from the beginning that I've been doing in Bushwick and going out doing shows when I have a show. I've been doing less and less shows this year, sort of conserving the energy because Nir and I are doing a tour at the end of this month with a lot of the songs that we've been working on. And the plan is really just to like stop doing the endless every single night shows that have like been taxing on the body and soul and like really put more of my mind towards finishing this album so that it can open the doors for like bigger shows, festivals, etc., which are starting to come. Because at least for me, when I moved here, all I ever wanted to do was play every single night. And it really worked out for me for the first like 2 years solid. I was doing a show at least like twice a week. And it's not really like sustainable to do that as an artist because you're not
with the energy you're putting out on stage too. That's like, I can't imagine.
It was so fun. And I credit those months as like the most foundational parts of my career so far. But it's not something I want to do forever. Like I want to have shows that have bigger turnout and bigger venues and like more planning and like an actual spectacle. Yeah.
That is such an important stage to hit as a creative, I think, where it's really easy to just grind on that first level or that second level. But then taking the time to step back, go, okay, what are the things I can do that maybe won't pay off? It may not look like a show every night right now, but in 6 months, I can be playing for 1,000 people. What does that look like?
Yeah.
I'm curious. So you produce, you mix, you master, you write your songs. What brings you, as someone who can already cover every piece of the pie, to work with another producer? As someone who's also in that same boat, I'm intrigued by that. idea? What brings you to Nir?
Well, a lot of things. Primarily for me, it was sort of a desire to reach a particular sound in the beginning. So when I first like really wanted to work on a record, I had this idea of it really kind of sounding like Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
And
I get a little bit. I mean, it would be so basic of me to say like, oh, he's rapping over rock music. It's like Rage Against the Machine.
yeah,
But there is that little bit in there. I love that.
totally. And I take that as a compliment. Yeah.
The hair is kind
The
of
hair
like,
too. Exactly like the hair, yeah.
And I knew that Nir has like tremendous amount of experience recording live bands and rock and that kind of world. But also the huge thing that, because once we started working on it, very quickly we realized that it's not going to be like Rage Against the Machine. It's going to be our own thing that is something way more relevant and like personal. What's really propelled me to want to work with Nir more and more is I value his musical ear more than I do my own in the best way, because I trust Nir's experience and I've listened to Nir's own music and it really inspires me. So I want somebody outside of my head to come up with musical ideas and to drive the boat, if you will, or to steer the wheel, so that I can also focus on the other things. And Nir's also really pushed me to do things that I wouldn't do, like even vocally on the album. Like, I'll give you an example. A lot of the songs are very intense and loud, and I would sort of naturally match that as I would on stage with like a very loud performance. But Nir's taught me a lot more about being more dynamic vocally, and like maybe it could be more intense to be less intense sometimes on a song. And all of these rich pieces of advice and everything is like why I'm desperate to work with him, because I want to be challenged. I want to be forced to learn things and to be worse at it than someone else in some way, and I think that's how I operate with Nir. Yeah.
I like that. I like that you said to be like worse at something than someone. Like that's a piece of advice I got very early on. Always be the like worst player in the room. Always be the worst producer in the room, because if you're not, then you're in the wrong room.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel right now. And it's not to say like Nir's like some omnipotent, all-knowing.
100% not the case. Yeah.
No, but it's another perspective, and that's so essential. Nir, where are you pulling from musically for this project? What are the influences you're personally taking?
I mean, for this project, I think, again, just to kind of like circle back to what Nory just said, Nory approached me, from what I remember, with like this idea of like, hey, I have this like 12 songs or whatever. I want to do this, my next record, I want it to sound like a Rage Against the Machine kind of like vibe or whatever. And I don't know where I was personally at the time with my experience of working with artists and where I was at with my career. I was like, I can take the gig and just like, record 12 tracks of whatever and we can make it sound good and, you'll have your thing. But it's like, I see that you're actually putting the work of like, putting yourself out there. And I saw that Nory is not just like, he's actually, he can be open enough to actually dive in deeper and to get something more, which from what I understood, this is what he was reaching for. He was reaching for like artistically to go to the next step of his path as an artist. And I said like, okay, so that's not the way. If you're already gonna dive in for a full LP for like your debut record, you need to dive in. And I would ask you as a producer to dive in harder than just like, aesthetically cover the idea of like, okay, let's do a rock rap record, whatever. And then it's a whole like, I don't know, my approach, I love to fuck shit up. So it's like, the whole idea, we started building this concept of like, okay, Nory, a lot of his energy, a lot of his like good qualities as a performer and an artist, and what he tried to capture with the idea of like, doing this rock thing is like a lot of it is coming from a live performance thing, right? So I thought it will be really interesting to build a record that we kind of like building a live set basically with a band and kind of like crafting the beats and the songs as like a full live performance, you know what I mean? So we started like working a pre-production thing with two of our good buddies, amazing musicians, Skippy on the drums and Jordan on guitar. And we did this thing of like, the best of the best. And we did this thing of like, I think it was like 4 or 5 sessions of basically jamming out and crafting like a live performance, basically. Like,
That's so cool.
So like, kind of like, diving in and creating all this like ambience, and in between, like, flow of like 45 to an hour set of original thing. And Nory was just like kept on going on top of that, just like, freestyling, and like we were like, crafting beats and ideas from there. And then we kind of like went to a studio at the Mission Sound, and we cut like all of these ideas, brought it back to my studio, fucked it all up, like chopping it and looking into a more modern hip hop aesthetic. And then just building the songs as we go, basically, you know what I mean? We're closing the mixing for this record. We're still recutting lead vocals and tweaking like new ideas and whatever. So the creative process and like the depth of what I think Nory wanted to go for, I think we kind of achieved it that way in this kind of like,
Yeah.
weird experiment that we're like doing. But we're both very, very happy with what we're doing.
Yeah, it's great.
The result is crazy, and
I can't wait to hear that. That sounds so cool.
I think it's cool to craft a record around like live performance, which is something that like I know you as a musician struggle with because you don't, and then you're asked to perform. Like you have 2 performances this year.
Yeah.
He does, and he's struggling with trying to figure out how to make it live, because a lot of what he does, and you do a kind of like a rap vibe, like
It's a lot of like
fast,
heavy EDM rap.
put a lot of fast vocals that you're just like, that's a lot to have to do
Yeah.
live.
A lot of very, studio vocals where every line's overlapping another, and there's there's no breathing for 6 minutes straight.
Yeah, but to craft a record around already a live performance must make it easy to then go and tour, right?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I think the idea was to capture the energy of his live performance, and then we really just took all of the live performance that we recorded and just really chopped it and looked at it as samples and just like created a whole modern hip-hop aesthetic out of it. So it's not really straightforward live band. It doesn't sound like it.
No.
Right.
No, but I love that process.
It's
really
not
cool.
like just like I didn't want to also again, not trying to over talk about it, but it's like, I didn't want to just like, start also producing of like, okay, let's sit on the Ableton, me and you, and bring me this raw energy that you try to capture with like when you first approach me with like, let's do this like Rage Against the Machine, mad rock kind of like rap. It's like, no, we should have done it that way of like, feeling it in the room and then just like approach it in the more modern aesthetic, more fresh, and fuck it all up in the studio with like this kind of like flow. So
I mean, that's the best of both worlds. You get the energy of the live performance, but it's guided by the pre-production you did. And then you get to come all the way back around and polish it and make it really really hit hard.
To tie back to the first question about why I would want to delegate some tasks to other people, because I would never have come up with this, and I had tried repeatedly because essentially the main thing wasn't to get a Rage Against the Machine thing. That came from my desire to capture what I thought was my greatest quality, which was being a live performer.
Sure.
So I was struggling, and also like learning a lot about how you can record music to feel the magic that you do live. And part of it was me on this journey realizing that you can't actually, because there will always be a separation between what the live experience is, but then also what a record can be, and both feed off of each other, and both can be just as powerful. Right. But they're different universes, and the way that Nir's gotten us to this point, I think, is the only way I feel, especially within the bounds of like hip hop, where you can really accomplish like the rawness and the intimacy of like a live show, but also the like production magic of hip hop and just the beauty of like the post production work.
Yeah, and the credit to Nory to just like be brave enough to dive in, with his own project. Like not a lot of people are willing to do these steps and just like trust the process. Everyone loves to say it, but how many times are you actually doing it? You know what I mean? When you do something, work on something, you just like don't know where it's gonna go, and you trust the process, and he really pulled it up. So it's like great.
It's what I live for. It's what I love to do the most. And all I ever want for the rest of my life is to just do what we did every other day.
Fun.
That's awesome.
It's so much fun. Yeah.
I love that. I love hearing that.
What is your craziest story moving into New York City and coming into the music scene? What is your favorite memory of that?
Oh, well, honestly, I have one. So when I moved here, as I said, I was so desperate to get on stage, and to me, like the idea of being on stage in New York from Miami was just like this unattainable fantasy that I didn't think would ever be possible. And to me, it felt like the same of saying like, I'm going to win a Grammy this year. You know, it's just like, yeah, okay. But when I moved here, I started working at a restaurant and was doing this internship at the studio I'm now working at. And by luck and by chance, this musician Augie Bello, who's a saxophonist,
I love Augie.
Yeah, he's pretty well known. Him and I kept crossing paths. He would eat at the restaurant I was working at by chance, and he would rehearse at the studio that I was interning at by chance. So we kept seeing each other. And he had this show at the bitter end where he was going to invite artists. And I remember like going up to him at the restaurant when I was working as a host, being like, yo, dude, if there's any chance I could go up, I'm a rapper. Like I would love the opportunity to play during your set. And, this is why they fired me at this restaurant, because I kept doing this. But before they did that, I asked him and he said, yeah, man, just come through and we'll see if we have time at the end of our set. So I pull up to the bitter end. It's my first time going to the bitter end. I don't think I was even old enough to like be in the venue legally, but I showed up and it was packed. It was like 200 people. And I like sent him a wave of a song that I was like, if you guys could learn this song, just like annoying him and trying. And he was like, at the very end of the set, when the house is like 200 plus people are there, he's like, we actually have a rapper here. I'm going to call up Nory. We're going to do his song. And this is the first time I was ever on stage in New York. And it went so well. I discovered myself in that moment as a live performer because I had done live shows before, but not to that level and not in such a cool place with a band as good. So it was really like mind blowing for me. And then that was really the fire in the engine for me to like pursue this. And then after that, I like, befriended Augie and I kept doing it with him at all of his shows and jams and whatever he was doing.
Cool.
So
that gave me like goosebumps.
Yeah, that's a beautiful
hearing
story.
That's so cool. I love Augie, and I just met Aiden a couple weeks ago in Washington Square Park.
Yeah, they're always there.
Cool.
That story, it says so many things along the way of like, the bravery to just go up to a customer and say like, hey, can I jump on this show? Here's a wave of my song. Learn it. That's crazy and awesome.
But it's how you do it.
Yes.
Because so many people just don't take that jump. And we've talked about this before, but just people are too afraid or don't think about it. They're like, I can never do that. And then they don't think any further and then they don't get anywhere. But like, what's the worst that can happen? People say no. And you're like, all right,
get fired.
Whatever. Well, or that. But look, there's many restaurants, right?
So
like, there's not as many opportunities. Like
not many Augie Bellos. And then B, to have the bravery to get on stage with him in front of 200 people for the first time in New York. Yeah. And then C, I think it's easy to miss in this conversation, but obviously you sent him the song and he liked it. He thought it was good. That's a really important part of it too. So like you had the bravery and you had a good song ready to go that you knew how to perform on stage. And that's it. It's so important.
Making that connection afterwards. I mean, that's a huge connection to have. Yeah. Because then he knows all these other people and it spreads out from there. Like, I know he's a very big name in that entire scene in Brooklyn. So to now have all of those connections, like that's a big deal.
Yeah. Awesome. And it really also just speaks to his kindness. He's a really nice guy. I don't even think he's aware of at all. I don't think he knows that this was like a big deal for me. Even today, I don't think he knows. But I'll be sure to let him know one day when we're at the Grammys together or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he on your record?
No, well, so this record has no features really and no horns or no embellishments. It's all just like, not that horns are embellishments.
Yeah.
But sometimes. But it's just us four losing our minds in a room. And we do have two vocalists who are doing, or three vocalists who are doing like some choruses and some vocal work, but really it's not like a album with any features currently.
Who are the vocalists? Yeah. Or do you not want to say?
No, I'd love to share. So you probably know them. Leia Rich is one of them. She's like maybe the greatest singer of all time.
Probably.
Yeah? We gotta check her out.
She's unbelievable. She performs every Monday night at Producer Mondays. She's in the house band, which is that amazing weekly event at New Blue. If you guys haven't been, I really recommend it.
I've heard of I feel like everyone plays there.
Yes, everyone. Like it's the top.
Amazing night.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then there's Malik Hammond, who I have a record out with already, who's an incredible gospel R&B singer slash pianist slash,
Beautiful spirit.
yeah, truly.
100%.
Also
Awesome.
one of the most amazing musicians I've ever met in my life. And we were very intentional about who we wanted to include in this record. It wasn't just like who's a great singer, but who are people that we admire musically, and like who do we love as friends. And then the last singer on the record is Nev, who I co-host my jam with every Tuesday night, who's a week away from winning the Apollo. What is it? The
Apollo Theater.
amateur night at the Apollo, like the amateur. So he's like on the brink of greatness, as we all are. And he's
amazing.
An incredible artist. Yeah.
How'd you meet all these people? Was it just from performing and going out?
Yeah, it was from being out way more than I should, and shaking a lot of hands. Like Malik and I became good friends from the Sampler, which I honestly think is where we met.
That's where we met for sure.
Yeah. So the
Tell us about
Sampler is a
that.
Wednesday night jam session. All of my like everything that's happened to me in New York is a result of going out to jam sessions and meeting people. And so Nir and I met at this
Sampler.
Yeah, it's like a bar in Bushwick.
Mhm.
Every Wednesday night they do
The Pulse session, I think. Pulse.
Yeah, the Pulse session. This guy Alicia is the host, who's also on the
Like
record.
Alicia.
Yeah, he plays.
He's on the record?
Yeah, he's on the Cat Tristan the Devil.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tristan the Devil.
yeah.
All right.
We'll talk about it.
He's my man. He's the best. Alicia is the best.
Yeah. Who's a New School alum, and I think I met him at the New School
Nice.
like before. But one night I was walking home from the train when I moved to Bushwick. Short story, I was dating a girl, as I said, and then we broke up, so I had to leave Manhattan because I couldn't afford to live there without her. And I was staying on a couch in Bushwick, having never really been there before. And that I mark as like the most life-changing sort of thing for me, because when I moved to Bushwick, I was staying on this couch. I would get off at the L on Jefferson and walk to the apartment, and that's where I would meet and discover all of these amazing things, because Bushwick right now is like what the East Village was in the 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the punk scene, like underground music at its biggest and like most innovative in New York. So anyways, I met Malik there, and Leia I met at Producer Mondays. We became really close friends over time. And Nev I met at the Sampler as well. Yeah. So everyone at a jam session, essentially.
Nice. I want to know what exactly the experience and process is at a jam session like this. For those listening, what do you come prepared with? What can you expect to happen over the course of the night? What are you expected to know and be able to do at these sessions?
But also, like, what one would you start with? What would you recommend as like the first one to go to if you've never experienced anything like that?
Yeah, it's a great question because they're all different, and I think as a host of a jam, I will tell you I really don't know the answer to them. It's sort of like this weird unspoken process that changes every night depending on who's there. I guess for me, and I'll let Nir also like chime in on this because we both have been a part of a lot of jams in the city. For me, the way that it works is it's an opportunity for musicians to learn from each other and communicate without the ego as much as possible. So like contributing fully improvised music, trying to build songs together while not, like overdoing it. And that to me is like the point of a jam, is to really learn like how to contribute without getting in the way of or not doing enough. And the same for vocalists. So like as a rapper, the jam sessions were a place where I could treat my rapping like an instrument, and that unlocked like a whole new outlook on rapping for me, because now it's not just like we're gonna have a rapper on this beat, but I feel as though I am a guitar or a saxophone in these jam sessions. Like, how am I gonna be musically contributive to the process? What do you think?
I mean, are you asking from point of view of like a musician that's gonna
or honestly from a perspective of somebody maybe looking for somebody to produce, right? Like, is that why you would go? Explain from your perspective. Like, why do you go?
My perspective is definitely a lot of it is networking and the opportunity to meet like up and comers or well established like producers, musicians that are in the scene. Nublu, for example, the Producer Mondays, like heavy cuts are rolling through and it's amazing. my approach, and it's my personal take. And I don't know, for me, because I'm self-taught and I kind of grew up learning by just watching and actually just like taking in and observing. My take is, if I'm coming to a jam session, I'm not putting myself in any pressure to play or to shine or to prove anything, you know what I mean? The best jam sessions are the one that everyone is respecting the room and everyone is here to having a good time. And yeah, the networking can be like, it's not a negative thing. It's like, oh, we're here to have a good time and to just connect and to meet new people or whatever. So that's my approach. And from there, just like see how you feel. If you feel good, you have a little drink in you, and the playing is like somewhere in your territory, just hop in and, do your thing. But it's like, I don't know, a lot of people I see just like comes and trying to shine. I don't know what it is. I mean, like, it's just like, and then it's just like, you're not doing it for the room, you're not doing it for the sake of the music. You're kind of like shooting your own leg too, because it's like, no one will really want to connect with this kind of energy, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
There are ways to shine though, at jams, and
without playing too.
Yeah, definitely.
For real. It's like, just be this guy that's throwing like a good vibe, and you know what I mean, and inspiring the musicians that are playing right now.
Yeah.
To just, give in more, and just like, so yeah, I think that's my approach anyway.
And for me, jam sessions are really like a deeply spiritual place for me when they're done well, because I've struggled like connecting with religion my whole life, and the closest I've felt to like some sort of divinity is at a killing jam session that I'm a part of. It's just like, because everything we're saying is pretty much that the emphasis is about community and not about the self. And when you can tap into that level of connection, even as an audience member, you will. You don't have to be like playing to feel it. It's a communal space, and in this world, it's so hard to find these places where, even at church, they're still gonna ask you for money or for you to do weird things. I don't know.
Yep.
To not sin. Like we sin at these jam sessions, but we sin with pride.
Yeah, with pride and with joy, a lot of joy.
This is church at its most purest form. When it's executed well, and it's been a refuge for me.
For me too, and I would just add for that and say that, like, for me, coming from like, different countries, especially when I moved to Nashville like 3 years ago, like I didn't know anyone. My English was shit. It's still shit, but it's like getting better. And it's just like, for me to be able to come to a room and just like hop on my instrument and play and cherish that feeling, and actually to be able to have a genuine communication and, connection with people. They're like, oh, I see you, I get you, you don't need to. It's like, yeah, it's a very important thing for me too. And people need to, I think the right approach is to cherish it that way, what I mean? It's like something that could be really spiritually uplifting, and we could all benefit from it as a community, you know what I mean? And have a real moment with people. Yeah.
It's a fragile thing, because as powerful as it can also be equally disruptive.
The worst shit you can ever, experience. So
it's very fragile.
Very fragile. Fine line between greatness and just like, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I think even having a place to have that happen is something that's definitely harder and harder to find. And as music gets easier to produce at home, right? We can be anywhere. We're out kind of in the middle of nowhere, comparatively speaking, to New York City.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
Not really jam sessions around here like that. And so me and the other musicians in my scene, we're all just kind of in our bedrooms. We're on Discord servers, sharing music with each other. And that's about as close as it gets to that kind of community. So to hear that kind of experience, that sounds really nice.
Yeah, and you also as a producer that's working from home or whatever, sometimes when I'm overproducing or mixing a lot, so when I'm mixing in my head, just like, doing all my things by myself, you're going to one of those nights and you like kind of like it's you kind of remember like the power of like, people playing together. It's like, it's so easy. It's like, you don't have to align like 400 like different elements right now.
Yeah.
It's all happening in real life in like, it's crazy.
Right. It's not perfect, but it's easy to lose sight of that.
I think the community in general is such a huge part of the music scene. Like, I don't think a lot of people think about it.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, this is a cool artist and that's it. But like the community is everything. And that's what everyone
Absolutely.
has kind of been saying on the podcast too, is that meeting people is really hard, and like meeting people that you really connect with is a lot harder too. And I feel like that's probably one of the greatest spaces you could probably find a connection.
Yeah.
Would you say that somebody who isn't a musician but wants to work in the scene, maybe behind the scenes, would you say that that's a good space to start?
Well, everyone who's interested in doing anything musical to go to jams. They're the ultimate networking space. And it's also, the kind of person that's going to be at a jam is someone who truly loves playing music and who truly loves listening to music. And it's a good filter for genuine people that you can connect with, because nowadays, as we're talking about, it can be really difficult to meet people. And like, I've gone to networking events in the industry. I've met label people a lot over the last year, especially. And I would rather go to a jam session than those any day of the week, because people are just themselves in these spaces, and it's more a party than anything, So, it's just like a cool place to hang out, and people want to meet each other at these places too.
Right.
And also,
They're
I would
expecting
add
it.
to that it's like, even if you're doing it behind the scene or looking to do a behind the scene thing, it's like the people you're gonna meet at the jams, there's so many unbelievable talent that's going to these jams that you wouldn't find in like social media.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're just not playing this game.
Yeah.
And it's like a real opportunity to, just to meet like a lot of different creatives that are not playing the social game, that social media game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
Real life.
real life.
Yes.
Real life. I will say though, Nir's instilled this mentality in me, inspired by him, but also like by my own journey. I overdid it a lot.
What do you mean?
I would do a show. I'd go out to a jam. I mean, every single night for the last like year and a half. And I think it has, you can overdo anything. You can overdo broccoli, So that was kind of the thing for me, is I've been trying to step a little away from it just to have more mental space and emotional thing, because at the end of the day, like, because the jams and improvisation itself is such a demanding creative expression, it's a lot to like empty your gas tank doing every night. And I'm like an all or nothing person, and there's nothing, like, I either have an afro or I have buzzed hair. There's no so I have been doing my best to be a little more balanced about going out to these places all the time, because it's really a lot, and it's hard
And
to
you're shifting your focus to a new stage. But I'm sure, I mean, it doesn't sound like you regret going out and putting in all that work for a year and a half. That was one stage. You did the work. You got a ton of experience and practice.
Yes.
And now you're applying that, and connections. Yeah. And now you're applying that to the next stage. And that's the journey. Speaking of playing the social media game, you are doing an amazing job with that.
Thanks.
Also, like, what role does that play in the process for you? What's your process for like coming up with TikToks and shorts and everything?
Honestly, a lot of it I do enjoy doing, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy doing it. Obviously there are many artists who don't, and it's not a source of joy, but I've been doing social media for businesses forever. Like I when I was 10 years old, was filming videos for my dad's job in his office. So I've been playing this game forever. And it's a skill and practice that I do enjoy, and I find like artistic fulfillment in occasionally. And I think there's a way to do it that is really personally fulfilling. So for me, a lot of the things that fuel the stuff I post are, I might make a really cool song that I don't want to actually release, but would be cool for 30 seconds.
So I saw one video of you saying like songs I'll never release and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like one of your most popular videos. Why wouldn't you release it?
I don't know.
It's good.
Releasing a song, it opens an interesting door at that point, because releasing songs for me is, it's so much. It's like when I release a song, it becomes like a chapter in my life for me to look back on. However, I will say that I recently did just drop a song and not tell anybody. I don't even know your nose.
I don't know, the one that you showed me, the other thing?
The one,
The thing?
no, I didn't drop that one.
It's too good.
Yeah, we're gonna hold on that one.
Hey, which one was it? Because I was going through your stuff today.
It's called You Make Me Whole. Do you remember that?
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just listening to that. And in fact, I wanted to ask you about that song in particular. That's got like a crazy shreddy guitar solo at the end of it.
Yeah,
right?
it does.
You mentioned Rage Against the Machine. I know you have a jazz background. Is there any Mars Volta going into that?
I honestly have not listened to a lot of Mars.
That's fair. You might enjoy them. Check it out.
I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
Well, I like it. I like that track a lot. That was my favorite.
Yeah,
that I
that
heard
was
it
like
all
a
of it. It's
random
really
song I
sick.
made like a month ago, and I was like, I'm not gonna sit on this. Like, I'm just like, why, you know? And I'm
That's
trying to
because yeah,
tell Near this because, dude, when I tell you that this guy has unbelievable music,
I'm really terrible at like finishing stuff.
it's so painful because he has like, I mean, the music I'm hearing is like they're classics, like
you gotta
genuine,
just
and I
drop
can
it.
say that, like truly magnificent masterpieces. And you know, I had this song and I think I was really enjoying it and I kept listening to it. And then I just told myself, like, it will either never go out and no one will ever hear it, or at least just put it somewhere, just release it. You don't have to do all the crazy shit that we do when we
Right.
release a
Yep.
song, the 50,000 reels and the texting people and the reposting it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you could
It's
just release
exhausting.
it.
Make one like kind of cool, interesting visualizer video for it,
At
and
best, yeah,
yeah,
or just have it like, or just put
yeah,
it out there. I literally just like went through my photo camera roll and just used the cover I thought would be funny, and
I
I was
love
like,
that.
I don't care, I'm doing it, and it was kind of my own self rebellion
And it's great.
against
It
myself.
connected right with me immediately. I love it.
There
I
you
really
go. That's proof. Here,
Yeah, you're right. I'm gonna drop it.
I put out 50 songs last year. You can do it.
wow,
I
50
just drop them.
songs.
that's amazing. That's like once every 2 weeks or once a week.
It was a lot of them were like features I was on, but I think it was
Wow.
30 original songs that I dropped last year.
Damn.
But
Not
I'm coming
much
from the
people
YouTuber side. I'm thinking on like a different time scale.
Sure.
Now this year I am moving into a stage where I'm like, okay, I want to make fewer and bigger swings. I want to do a few really big music videos and stuff, but I grew on dropping up a whole bunch of songs. I did.
Dude,
Mm.
that's great. I mean, it works that way. It's an algorithm.
Yeah.
100%.
starting to do it too now too. We have a release. I'm starting to drop like a track every 2 weeks, starting with a track that I feature Nory on, and our
Nice.
amazing singer Tasha, our dear friend.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm with you. I'm starting it too.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
It seems like it's becoming more and more of a thing, especially in that scene. Everyone that I've talked to has said we're dropping one every month or one every few weeks,
Yeah.
and that just seems to be the thing now
You gotta
for an
Well,
album.
everything's
give
an
people content.
algorithm, and that is definitely the best way to have it work for you.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a tricky one though, because like real art, quote unquote, or like artists that are trying to go deeper with the meaning of what they're trying to produce and to create, it's like, shit can take time. It's not like
Mhm.
you're not just trying to feed algorithms. So there is like a collusion here of like, you're trying to just like, make it as a work and a business or whatever. But also the records that I grew up on, the records that we're talking about all the time, it took them like sometimes 5 years to like, drop a release like that.
Yes.
So it's like I feel like at this modern age, what I'm starting to figure out, it's like, you need to find your identity as like, someone that this is just like, you're dropping, you're feeding the beast, you're making it in a way that you're like, you're happy with it, you're proud of what
Yeah.
you do, but also separate it from like, the big release of like my full artistic vision can,
Right.
be different identity. You know what I mean? I think it's very important to
Right.
Mm.
I think it's really easy to fall into feeling like you're, feeding the beast, feeding the algorithm. It is helpful to also remember that it's really just people want to hear more songs from you also.
Sure.
People fall in love with your music and your voice, and they just want to devour 100 different things from you at once. Anytime I feel like I'm like in a content grind and stuff, I do remember like people also just like hearing a lot of music. That's nice. But I do want to dive into those bigger artistic projects too. Yeah.
Well, especially if you're making an album, though, I feel like it could also be a whole story. I know people used to use their albums to paint a picture, like an entire picture. And so if you're only putting one or two songs out at a time, it's not painting that whole picture. And then maybe by the time the album comes out, people already have their favorites. They're skipping around. They're not listening to the full thing.
Right.
I just wonder, like, what changed that,
Spotify.
I guess. Yeah.
That's always the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. Like DSPs, a lot of people say have like ruined the album as a whole.
No, also our like attention time span and all like,
Yeah, everything.
technology,
Mm.
like it's different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Visual content comparing to just like putting headphones and listening to a full record is just like, I think people are just like looking for something else out of music as an art form.
Right. And honestly, with this album we're working on, like, I don't even know anymore if I want to do singles or like
Yeah.
how many singles. Because initially I was like, all right, here's the banger, here's the second banger, and this is like the third banger, and then we'll have 3 singles, and maybe we could do like 12 singles. I don't know. Some people, I know a lot of people who have an album, and then every song becomes a single that they'll like do like a waterfall release over the course of a year. And I don't know. I've been talking to Nir about it, and I'm like, isn't it really just badass to drop an album?
Yes. Also, this shit is like, if you already try, sorry, I'm very enthusiastic.
No, go ahead, please.
But it's like, if you already know how shit works, it means that it doesn't work like that anymore. You know what I mean? Like if there's already a plan of like, oh, you should do it, you should drop a you should make a single release from any song of the time, because this is how it goes like right now. The freshest shit that you can do, and the dopest thing you can do, is to actually just drop a record out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there is example for it too, you know what I mean? But it's like McGee, like, we're talking a lot about like McGee record. I don't know if you guys familiar with, but it's like, it just came out of nowhere, dropped an amazing record, start like, doing singles releases, I guess, after the record was out already.
Yeah.
Anyway, my approach, my point is that it's just like, there's no way to do anything. And I think people always give the credit that people are smarter at what you think. They're just like an algorithm, like kind of like thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're just gonna go out with like a full body of work out of nowhere, it's gonna have a different impact than just like, trying to play the game that it's already like, happening. That's what I think. It's just like,
I think Doechie's Never Heal is a really good example.
Exactly.
Great album drop.
Amen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, she just dropped that mixtape. Right?
There was so much thought going into that, though. I read like a whole behind the scenes thing of how they started planting the seeds of the image she was going to build for this like a year ago with a few, singles and press releases.
Yeah.
You look at the marketing she did around that, it's just amazing start to finish.
Yeah, I read something about like her, but it essentially just like locking herself to write the whole record for like a month, and then that was it. So also amazing strategy. Yeah, there's no rules.
There are no rules.
Yeah.
Agreed.
The priority is getting people to. Honestly, the priority is having this artistic vision reach its maximum potential.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I'm hearing the songs that we've made, and I'm like,
it's crazy.
Come on, this is special. So
have an amazing thing and show it to people in a way that shows them how amazing it is.
Yeah,
I think for you that's going to be like a ton of live performance videos, like show the thing that makes this so special. What you do.
It'll be a lot of live performance and a lot of really interesting visual elements as well, like reels and just like cool stuff.
Awesome.
We're currently figuring out that. I mean, I've done like some video work for the project already, but nothing that has hit yet fully. So we're figuring it out.
I can't wait to see it.
But we're taking our time.
Do you have a release date?
No,
not
That's
yet.
cool.
Okay. All right.
We had 4 different releases.
Yeah.
At this point.
I definitely think it'll be out by the end of the summer.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. That's sooner than I would have thought.
That's good. It'll be worth the wait. I can't wait. Well, thank you to Nory and Nir Horowitz for joining us. This was a fantastic interview. I really enjoyed this. If you like what you heard, you can find us at Relatively In Tune Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I've been Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
This is Relatively In Tune. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.